It is the 24th day of June 2025, just a day before the anniversary of the 2024 Gen Z-led protests that led to loss of several lives. This comes even as the Gen Z say they will remain resilient and fight for their rights to leverage the country from going into a ditch. They say they remain resilient and they will come out on the streets tomorrow to make sure that they fight for what they believe belongs to them. This comes as this morning we look on the top stories making the headlines. The papers expose those who are termed in the paper this morning as the warmongers. This is the Morning Momentum, and it is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. My name is Alphonce Ouma. Use the hashtag The Morning Momentum at Younib Media TV at Alphonse Albakwekwe. Good morning. Now, on the front page of the Daily Nation, shame. The warmongers. Action will be taken against people beating drums of violence, warns National Cohesion Agency. Now, reckless. Some of President William Ruto's allies have sent a chilling warning to Gen Zs, civil society activists, and opposition politicians planning to take part in countrywide protests tomorrow to mark the first anniversary of the June 25th, 2024 historic invasion of Parliament, that they may not return to their homes. These regrettable statements, apart from stoking public anger, depict state officials who are insensitive to the plight of Kenyan ones in the deadly demos against punitive taxes and government excesses, and risk plunging the country into anarchy. That story is beefed up for you on page 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the Daily Nation this morning. So among those reckless duos is Dr. David Ndii, who is the chairperson of President Ruto's Council of Economic Advisors. He said, and I quote, "Wewe tokea," they put it in brackets, "you just turn up and say your goodbyes before you leave home, just in case you catch a stray." Those are sentiments of Dr. David Ndii. On the other hand, William Kamket, MP Tiati constituency, says, "I hear there are people planning to cause violence like last time. They cried of the mayhem because caused by the goons brought last week. Let them try next week, which is tomorrow, and we will know there are Pokot youth." Now, Silvanus Osoro, Majority Party Whip, says, "Last week you incited the youth, and we are aware there are plans to do the same in the name of June 25th anniversary. We are telling you that this time it will not be business as usual." Quite controversial right there from national leaders that people look up to. But yes, that is what they said. So let's take a look at that on page 2 to page 6 of the Daily Nation. Also this morning on page 7, "Are we ready? Principals warn on grade 10 transition." The principals who are meeting for their annual Kenya Secondary Schools Head Association conference in Mombasa want the government to address retooling of teachers in career pathways, sustainable financing of schools, congestion, and learners' health insurance under the Social Health Authority. They also want to be guided on how national schools, which take borders, will accommodate day scholars. That story is beefed up for you on page 7. And on the cover page this morning in Sports News, "Big leap of faith inside Kipyegon's monumental Breaking 4 project in Paris." Let's get up close and candid with the paper on page 2. The warmongers. Ruto allies step up threats over protests. Now, air of anxiety. No youth are to be hired to guard businesses. In an insensitive bravado to Kenyans and families which lost their loved ones, some politicians have vowed to unleash goons. That story is beefed up for you on page 2 of the Daily Nation this morning. On page 3, commemoration. Youth lay out anniversary plans. Government spokesperson says tomorrow will be a normal day like any other, but the youth networks will be looking to honor the lives of their comrades who died during the June 2024 protests. You want to catch up with more insights of that on page 3. On page 4 this morning, businesses looted by goons still grounded a year later. This is mitigation. Entrepreneurs have since implemented a number of measures to protect their business premises. Affected business owners say state promise of support remains unfulfilled. When demonstrators took to the streets on June 25th, 2024, Ms. Grace Njeri believed the protests would be peaceful. As usual, she opened her businesses along Fangano Street in Nairobi's CBD. She had taken out a multi-million shilling loan to start her shoe business, which had picked up well. Encouraged by growth, she had opened another shop at the new Sunbeam shopping complex. Business was thriving, and she had high hopes of carving out a space in Nairobi's competitive retail sector. In previous years, she had struggled in employment before she quit and ventured into entrepreneurship. But all that was shuttered down by goons on 25th of June last year. On page 5, I witnessed deaths and burials of protesters, says a Gen Z activist following a trauma. The Gen Z activist Zaha Indimuli says attending the burial of Bisley Kogi left her with lifelong scars. Now, hearing about death at a protest is one thing. Witnessing a body being lifted from the streets and attending the burial of a protester is another. Gen Z activist Zaha Indimuli witnessed death at a very personal level last year and attending the burial of Besley Kogi, one of the protesters killed in Nairobi on June 25th, 2024. She tells her story on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. You want to catch up with that. On page 6, arrest. OCS and 5 others charged with Ojwang's murder. Now, police boss filed complaints against Ojwang. The suspects failed to take plea since two of them did not have lawyers. You want to catch up with that on page 5. On page 7 this morning, bad idea. Principals sound warning over grade 10 transition preparedness. Directive to mix day scholars and boarders in national school still received. It has been noted that teachers in secondary schools lack competency in the three pathways for senior school. That story is beefed up for you on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. And now let's take a look at page 8. Budget shortfall will stall by elections. IEBC says a total of 22 parliamentary and ward seats are currently vacant according to the commission. The Electoral Commission tells senators general election preparations are also at risk. At a glance, the vacant parliamentary seats and reasons: Senate Baringo County is because of death. The National Assembly Kasipul constituency is vacant following the death of the MP. Mbeere North MP was appointed to the cabinet. Banisa constituency MP died, and that is why the seat remains vacant. Magarini constituency election was nullified. In Ugunja constituency, the parliamentary seat remains unoccupied following the appointment of the then Member of Parliament to the cabinet. And in Malava constituency, the seat remains unoccupied following the death of the legislature. You'll catch up with more insights on page 8. Let's take a look at page 10. Eye on 2027 polls. Why Ruto loyalists fear a Gachagua-led government. Natembeya believes two formations, pro-people and anti-people, have distinctly emerged. Kapsaret MP Sudi says that an opposition victory could usher in vengeance, witch hunt, and persecution. You want to catch up with more of those insights on page 10. Let's move on and take a look at page 12. Dispute. CS in legal tussle with estranged lover. Plaintiff has applied for court orders barring defendant from making public the child's paternity. He wants the child enrolled in a public school in Kenya when he turns 12. Now, a cabinet secretary is embroiled in a legal tussle with his estranged lover over the naming of their 2-year-old child, payment of upkeep, and demands for relocation to a Western country such as the United States or one in Europe. At the heart of the court dispute is also a claim that the woman's parents demanded cows from the CS as a compensation for impregnating their daughter, a demand the minister has strongly resisted. The embattled CS, whose name is withheld to protect the identity of the child, is seeking the intervention of the Children's Court in Milimani, Nairobi, citing continued phone harassment and alleged extortion by the woman identified in court papers as Miss FMM. She currently lives and works in Dubai. That story is beefed up for you on page 12. The DNA test was done in 2024, and confirmed plaintiff is the biological father of the minor. Let's take a look at page 14. Medics lose court bid to stop shift deductions over double taxation concerns. Now, the High Court in Nairobi has declined a request by four medics to protect workers from what they termed double taxation through mandatory contributions to the Social Health Insurance Fund. This even as the judge observed that the 2.75% monthly deduction from workers' gross salaries after the payment of income tax amounted to double taxation. 2.75% is the percentage of an employee's salary that is deducted after the deduction income tax toward shift. That story is beefed up for you on page 14. Let's stay with that there a little bit on the health sector. Civil servants pay for healthcare they can't access. Delayed remittance of deductions has seen civil servants forced to pay for services out of pocket. Medical Services PS says over 44,000 employers are yet to comply with the sharp payment requirements. You'll catch up with that story. It's augmented for you on page 14. Let's take a quick look at the expert opinion this morning. Africa's clean energy future is within reach if we choose it. Africa stands at crossroads. One path leads to a future shackled by fossil fuel dependency, mounting debt, and deepening inequality. The other offers a bold, people-centered vision powered by clean, renewable energy, one that promises prosperity, resilience, and energy sovereignty. A new report makes the choice abundantly clear. You'll catch up with that on page 16. Also this morning, time to rethink Computer Misuse Act. Stop fresh changes. Just this week, a Siaya court ordered blogger Michael Ochieng to pay 3.3 million shillings in damages. That story is beefed up for you on page 16. And on the Powering SMEs this morning, importation hurdles inspired entrepreneur to start a logistics firm. From serving less than 2 clients a month when they were starting out, business now employs 42 staff in Kenya and 25 in China. That human interest story and an inspiration is what is beefed up for you on the Powering SMEs this morning. We move on and take a look at more stories on the Daily Nation this morning. Now, on page 17, under the expert opinion, make June 25th a public holiday. A partnership of the political establishment and criminal gangs, as witnessed in Nairobi last week, is the first step towards anarchy, says Francis Gaido in reference to the anniversary that is coming up tomorrow. Let's take a look at county news now. We start with finance. 10 counties beat the odds to collect higher revenue. Nairobi topped the list with 9.9 billion shillings, followed by Narok at 4.9 billion shillings. They netted 30 billion out of the total 45.91 billion revenue that was generated. Now, in Embu County this morning, family seeks answers after daughter vanishes in Iraq without a trace. On January 6, 2023, an ambitious Jacqueline Gatwiri left her home in Kivunguru village, Embu County, to look for greener pastures in Iraq. Gatwiri, who is 28 years, wanted to provide for her mother and son, who was then 4 years old, after having previously worked in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. However, unknown to her family, that day would be the last time they would see her alive. You want to catch up with that on page 19. Let's move on to Lamu County now. Going to Manda Airport, a boat or though awaits. Many tourists find accessing the airport to be a memorable experience. Now, Manda Airport in Lamu County offers one of the most unusual travel experiences in the country. Here, forget taxis, buses, or airport shuttles, as your transfer comes with sea spray and the gentle sway of a dhow. Tucked away on the northeastern coast of Kenya, on Manda Island, Manda Airport, commonly known as Lamu Airport, is entirely surrounded by the Indian Ocean and has no road access. To get there, travelers must trade wheels for waves. From the moment your plane touches down on the island's tiny airstrip, the journey becomes more than just a transit. In Homa Bay County this morning, Kenya's oldest Adventist hospital marks 100 years. To any member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the name Gendia resonates deeply. Perched above the shimmering waters of Lake Victoria in Kendu Bay, Gendia has for over a century drawn together believers from across South Nyanza and beyond. Its legacy is so profound that the Luo SDA hymnal is affectionately known as Nya Gendia, born of Gendia that is. In 1906, pioneer missionaries Arthur Kaskelen and Peter Nyambo arrived on the lake shores and established a mission station overlooking Kisumu. With land donated by local communities, they laid the foundation for what would become a flourishing spiritual and social hub. You'll catch up with that story on page 20. Now, in the metropolitan, slum residents still homeless a month on. More than 100 residents of Vietnam B zone in Nairobi's Mukuru Kwanjenga slum in Embakasi, rendered homeless by a fire a month ago, are yet to return to their homes. Earlier, the county government distributed foodstuff and mattresses to more than 100 households affected during the night incident that destroyed tens of structures. That story is on page 20. And now we shift and take a look at the international scene. Attack on nuke sites. Putin on Iran strikes. World is courting great danger. The minister was to deliver Khamenei's letter in Moscow trip. Russian president hosts Iran minister, says the US attack was unprovoked aggression. In also international news this morning, Tehran's Evin prison struck in intense Israeli foray. Israel targeted Evin prison in Tehran on Monday, one of the most potent symbols of Iran's governing system, in what Israel called the most intense bombing yet of the Iranian capital, a day after the US joined the war by blasting the nuclear sites. Briefly, in Damascus, 22 perished in deadly suicide bombing at a place of worship. A suicide bombing during Sunday evening mass at a Damascus church killed at least 22 people and wounded 63 others, marking the deadliest and first attack of its kind on a Christian place of worship in the Syrian capital in several years, officials said. Let's head back to East Africa and go to Kampala. 7 Ugandan soldiers killed by Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia. At least 7 Ugandan soldiers on a peacekeeping mission in Somalia have been killed by Al-Shabaab militants, the Ugandan military said on Sunday. Felix Kulayigye, spokesperson for the Ugandan People's Defense Forces, told journalists that 30 terrorists were also killed during a joint operation with the Somali army aimed at recapturing the town of Sabid, Anole from the Al-Shabaab. With that story, we shift gears and take a quick look at the business news. We start with the finance. Longer pension payout delay on 57 billion shillings funding gap. The state scrambles to plug a gap that's only getting wider. Thousands of retirees left in limbo as Treasury grapples with cash crunch. Key figure stands at 52% of pension budget that has been disbursed, the lowest in the CFS vote. Briefly, in the energy sector, Kenya publishes crude oil rules in the commercial push. Oil firms will pay 2 million for a construction permit of crude oil storage and pipelines under the proposed regulations as the country steps up efforts to become an exporter of the black gold. In matters insurance, Jubilee launches new regional office in Nairobi, and in taxation, used car dealers sue KRA over the new tax calculation. The Car Importers Association of Kenya has sued KRA over the agency's new motor vehicle price list that will form the basis of collecting taxes on used models arriving in Kenya from 1st of July. You will catch up with that story on page 23. Now let's move on and take a look at sports news on the Nation this morning. We start with golf. Players reap big from solid performances. Now, these are among the biggest climbers in current world rankings. Golfers who competed in Sunshine Development Tour have improved in ranking. That story is beefed up for you on page 30 of The Nation. Let's look at football. Youth hold key for Africa Cup. Starlets coach Odemba says. Tanzania hit Kenya in final to win Sekafa Senior Women's Championship title. The coach hints at giving younger players chance in 2026 Women's AFCON qualifiers after team finished second in the Sekafa Cup. In rugby, Kenya Lionesses speak positives from World Cup qualifier event. Now, there is plenty of optimism among Kenya Lioness players despite their failed attempt to qualify for 2025 Women's Rugby World Cup, which will take place in England between August 22nd and September 27th. South Africa, which has played in 2006, 2010, 2014, and 2021 editions of the Women's Rugby World Cup, will play in this year's tournament, Kenya's expense. Kenya has tried unsuccessfully to qualify for the 2014, 2021, and 2025 editions of the tournament. Let's take a look at the cover page now. Big leap of faith inside Kipyegon's monumental, quote-unquote, breaking 4 project in Paris. The Olympics 1500 meters champion will attempt to be the first woman to run a historic sub-4-minute miles on Thursday in Paris. The Olympics 1500 meters champion Kipyegon must strike a consistent pace of 59.7 seconds in each 400 meters lap of the mile. That is 1600 meters. If she is to succeed in running the mile in less than 4 minutes in Nike Breaking 4 project on Thursday in Paris. Kipyegon, 31, will run the highly choreographed race on Thursday at Charletti Stadium in Paris, where she broke her own 1500 meters world record last year. With that story of Faith Kipyegon, we come to the tail end of the morning momentum this 24th day of June 2025. Thank you so much for choosing to watch Younib TV and for choosing to stay with the morning momentum. We do appreciate your company. Our heartfelt gratitude also goes to all those who made this broadcast a success. Behind the lens, Brian Goha, and the chief controller this morning has been Penina Washera. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, do have a beautiful day ahead and take care. Bye-bye for now. Thank you.